A god. Ancient. One of the Jötunn. A bastard offspring of Loki. We do not say its name. We worship it. It keeps us here. Lets us live beyond natural life. No more pain, no more death. Your ritual begins tonight. It is a privilege to worship. You will kneel before the god. If not, you will hang from the trees. This is a line from the movie The Ritual talking about the terrifying Norse mythology-based creature that we are talking about today. What's up, spooky babes? I'm Taylor. Welcome to Let's Go Fright Seeing. It's time for another Creature of the Week, which is a series where I talk about a creature I'm currently obsessed with. This could be anything from a mythological creature, a cryptid, or something from a really great movie that stuck with me and gave me nightmares. Today I'm thinking about the terrifying yet somehow gorgeously done creature from the movie The Ritual. If you have not seen this movie, this video will be full of spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go watch it. It's a folk horror that takes place in the woods. You can watch it on Netflix, and if you have seen it, maybe this monster terrifies and fascinates you the same way that it does me. Okay, quick movie rundown. Last call to avoid spoilers starting now. The Ritual is based on the book by Adam Neville and is basically like a Blair Witch Lads Holiday edition. This group of guys go on a lads holiday to hike around the beautiful Scandinavian mountains after one of their friends sadly passes away. However, they get lost in the woods and something ancient and evil lures them into a Blair Witch style cabin, and of course, horror ensues. There's a spooky effigy in the cabin. They start hearing things and seeing odd things in the forest, and eventually they get taken in by this cult that worships an old god called Modor, aka the Jötunn. Also, please note, I'm really trying my best with the pronunciation of this. I looked up the guides, I listened to that wonderful man on YouTube tell me how to say it. Unfortunately, American. Trying my best with words that don't make sense to my mouth. But I believe it is pronounced Jötunn. Anyways, one of the cult members explains to one of the men, Luke, that they make sacrifices to the ancient god in exchange for immortality. Luke is given the choice to become a cult member in a ritual or be sacrificed to the god. Luke ends up setting one of the cult's cabins on fire, causing chaos, and he's able to run for it, but it brings the Jötunn straight to him. After the buildup and the lore provided by the cult members, we finally get a glimpse of the monster. This is a beautifully done folk horror movie with one of the best monster creations I've ever seen. Let's talk about it. I think the reason this monster works so well for me personally is because I am fascinated by Norse mythology in general, and that's where this spooky baby comes from. In the movie, the cult member explains to Luke that they don't call it by its name, only calling it a Jötunn. In Norse mythology, a Jötunn, or Jötar for plural, is a primordial adversary to the gods. They're often called giants and have great powers to rival the gods. They are often described as chaotic forces of nature, and while they can be giants, they come in many different shapes and sizes. Like I said, the Jötunn in The Ritual is not one of the official ones found in Norse mythology, but it was pieced together from Norse mythology and folk horror with the story following the Jötunn's complicated, relationships with humans. Complicated doesn't even begin to explain it, but you get the idea. While this doesn't follow traditional mythology, in the movie, the Jötunn is said to be a bastard son of Loki, the trickster god. This monster design was dreamt up by director David Bruckner and the concept artist Keith Thompson. Then they brought in the visual effects supervisor, Ben White, to bring the Jötunn to life. Ben White said in an interview with theartofvfx.com that the goal was to show a Norse animal-like god with human-like features. Ben White said, quote, "David described the Jötunn as representing Luke's sense of guilt, his pride, his vanity. I thought of a stag strutting around his harem. For the chase scene, I found a clip of a moose charging through the snow that had a great sense of scale and power which matched the oversized creature we were creating." End quote. The creature resembles the body of a moose or a stag, but Ben said the skeleton of the animal is closer to a giraffe with some tweaks made for the legs so that they can really give it that power to chase after people through the woods. Terrifying. So the body is inspired by a giant stag or moose, but the head is a human torso. So spooky. On the human torso head of the creature, where the human arms would be, it has antlers, and where the legs should be, it has these arms that dangle down and can scoop up humans like a little baby. Ben White specifically pointed out one of the chilling features that is especially upsetting. On the head of the Jötunn, there is a cavity at the bottom where the eyes of the Jötunn are, and Ben White said, quote, "David said he wanted to make it look like male genitals had been ripped out, leaving the flaps of skin, which also are a reference to a stag antler molting." Yikes! Getting to look at the small-scale model of this creature really shows all of these details. Horrifying. There's one part in particular in the movie where you get a really good look at the head, where the creature peeks in through a door and it snakes one of its freaky little arms around the door frame and peers in. The camera is at an angle where it looks like this thing is staring directly into your soul. It is bone-chilling and incredibly well done. To pull off this creature, they used a mix of practical effects and CGI. I really wish there was more behind-the-scenes footage of how they pulled this off. I couldn't really find anything online that showed how they filmed the scenes with the Jötunn, but I did read a lot of different things and found some good images. Basically, they had a fully digital animation for the body, and anytime that there were chase scenes or scenes where you could see the creature from a distance, and they had these models made as a reference for the VFX team. This is what I mean. It's horrifying to look at, but the team did such a beautiful job creating this monster, you can't take your eyes off of it. I love it. And then for the scenes where the actors are interacting directly with the creature's head, it was a full-size scale build of just the head that they would attach to a rig, and this was created by the incredibly talented team at Russell FX. This is nuts. So this is what I mean when I say, give me the behind the scenes. I want to see how they made it. I want to see how they got in that suit. What did it look like? I want to know everything. Anyways, I found these really great images from the Russell FX website and their Instagram, which is at RussellFX. I will have it linked. But the caption on this post says, our full-size beast head made for David Bruckner, #The Ritual. We brought this on set in Romania as essentially a large creature suit. The performer laid on the crane rig with their head between the jowls to be digitally removed. Her arms were in prosthetic gloves and interacted with the other actors. There's a lot more practical creature in the movie than you might think at first glance. I'd guess around 80% of the shots contain practical elements, and virtually 100% used the beast head for lighting reference. We would just run around the woods holding this thing for camera with wild bears never too far away. Wild times. Can you even imagine being on this set? So freaking scary. And then here's a great picture where you can actually see the really detailed images of the head and all the beautiful paintwork and everything that went into creating this. Also, I wanted to point out specifically that exposed jawbone, insane. Oh man, this makes me want to work on a horror movie so bad! So they used this head and the rig as a practical interaction with Luke. There's a part in the movie where Luke is picked up like a wee baby by the monster in its little hands. I read online that they used a wire harness for this along with the full-scale head, so the puppeteer is inside with her arms through the prosthetic gloves that look like the scary arms, touching his face, lifting him off the ground. It is truly one of the best creature designs I have ever seen, and one of my favorite horror movies, if you are into spooky woods full of ancient folk horror gods, which I am. Also, a bonus creature. The movie Bambi the Reckoning came out last year, and while I was watching it, I was like, hey, Scary Bambi kind of reminds me of the monster from The Ritual, and when I did a little Google, sure enough, the director of Bambi, Jeffrey Scott, said he was very inspired by The Ritual, and they used some of that to play into the creature design for Bambi. Makes total sense. They did a beautiful job. That movie was actually really good, and it surprisingly will make you cry, just like cartoon Bambi. What other creatures are you horrified and fascinated by, from movies or just from folklore or cryptids in general? I want to talk about all of these things, so share with me your favorite so we can talk about it more. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe for more spooky creatures and all things spooky. It's always spooky season here. Until next time, just stay out of the woods, okay? Bye.